If you were looking for some wisdom, you're not going to get it. Instead, for the next 18 minutes, I'll share some practical tips of how we do it at our little digital media startup in South Africa. It's a national publication. It started out as a national publication 4 years ago. In our house, we now have 4 little vertical niches. The numbers will be terribly disappointing to most of you in Latin America. It's tiny. I was 14 years old when I first wrote a newspaper article for mainstream publication. All my life, I worked for corporate for most of it. And then about 5 years ago, in the media freedom battle in South Africa, something inside of me broke. For a full year of my life, I was physically not able to work, as a journalist. And while I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me, it was actually the year of my rebirth, and it gave birth to a digital media startup, which went from a little startup to Africa's best digital news startup in the IFRA Digital Media Awards, and also the #1 agriculture niche publication. The second thing is, if you're not into agriculture, that's okay. You can replace it with any little thing you're passionate about, whether that's bicycling, music. The point of just is to show you the many, many vertical ideas and how it's possible to coin it in a very special niche. So in our house, we have 3 daily publications with a combined readership of about 400,000. We reach more than 2 million more people per month through our social media channels, newsletters, podcasts, you name it. For this presentation, I'll focus on the 49% of our audience who are farmers, young black farmers. I'll tell you all about them. So 2 common questions we get all the time. What does Mzansi mean? You'll see food for Mzansi, health for Mzansi. Mzansi is just an informal name for South Africa. And the second most asked question is, what do? We are a house of multimedia, omni-channel brands, proudly African media brands. In our stable, one of them is a continent-wide publication. And we have a sense of mission about what we do. We know why we wake up in the morning to serve our audiences. And we try our very best to meet our audiences wherever they may be. For the purposes of this presentation, we'll focus on just one. It's called Food for Mzansi.
Home is where the heart is. It's where the food is. And the food you eat has to come from somewhere. Telling farmer stories has never been more important, because our future depends on them. Food for Mzansi tells the stories you need to hear, gives you the chance to make your voice heard, and gives you the information you need to thrive in South Africa. Wherever you are, whoever you are, this is what you need to know. Listen, scroll, read, subscribe. This is the new face of South African agriculture. These are the people putting food on your plate. These are their stories.
We call them the new faces of South African agriculture because for more than 100 years, these people you're seeing on the screen haven't been featured in any South African media. It took Food for Mzansi to come along 4 years ago to feature a predominant farming audience, mostly black. If you wake up any member of our team at 3 a.m., they should be able to describe our 4 audience avatars. That's how important audience is to us. We know everything about them. Most of them adopted us. We only built our product for Nomsa, the one on top. But any member of our team will tell you what she earns, where her kids go to school, where she gets her birth control, where she buys her vehicles, how fast the internet speed is. We know everything about our audience in order to monetize them in an omni-channel way. The first one is our newsletter strategy, and our combination of newsletters and podcast is a bit of an anomaly in South Africa. Normally in South Africa, because we've been profitable with our newsletters and podcasts since day one. On your screen is a typical example of our Wednesday newsletter. It goes out like clockwork every Wednesday at 5 a.m. And it's a premium newsletter subscription. At first, I didn't see its value, but it's been one of the money spinners for our digital news startup. It feels a bit like a modern-day newspaper, you know. When I was a kid, excited to browse through it, that's the kind of reaction we get to our audience listening to our podcasts in the morning or our newsletters in the morning. You know, they have their first cup of coffee, and they look forward to this edition. Except they don't like print, they like clicking. It features the editor-in-chief's opinion on whatever the topic is of the day, but it also includes sponsored content and affiliate marketing, the likes of which you've seen on the screen. Lots of advertising, fixed advertising banner spaces, and link through to other ad spaces. We sell physical products, services, and events, but it's highly niche and highly focused on this audience who expects so much of us. Many of our audience members tell us that they don't read anything else except this newsletter on a Wednesday morning. We're on about 52,000 subscribers. In combination with our newsletters, our podcast, it's now branched out to 2 weekly editions, both of them called Farmers Inside Track. I think we are on episode 130 maybe at the moment. And advertisers, clients, can either sponsor the podcast in full, you know, this podcast is powered by, proudly brought to you, whatever the client's name is, or they can buy specific sections in the podcast. Important to note, we don't sell specific numbers of downloads or listens. Podcasting is very new in South Africa. Our little podcast is already the most downloaded farmers podcast in South Africa. But podcasting in my country grows at about 120% per year. So people buy into the brand. They want to be a part of our audience and the magic we create as part of our publication. So it's typical live Q&As, short form questions, the latest news. The how-to element has become a big part of what we do. How to buy groceries on a tight budget, how to farm your own potatoes. That sort of content is proving to be really, really popular. And soon we'll also launch an agriculture video podcast, which is also, we're going live with that, in fact, next week. As a journalist, and I have to admit, as a founder and a businessman, it remains important to us that the content must have editorial value. You know, that always reigns supreme. The audience must feel that the content has value so that they are encouraged to stick around. And often, when we're in little debates or discussions with clients, we make that clear from the beginning. The editors have the final say in how content is presented. At the bottom of the screen, you can see a section of how a client sponsored a specific episode of our podcast. In order to serve this audience better, we've started an online store, an e-store, which was a first for us. We launched it in January this year. It's also called Farmers Inside Track. It's a store right at the bottom. And literally, imagine this news publication selling live chickens, chicken feed. Whatever our audience needs, we will be able to supply them with it, and we make quite a bit of money of them. Of course, we train them first. Many of them dream of becoming more commercial scale farmers. So we put them through our Farmers Inside Track Academy, which we're hoping to have accredited by next year. And then we also give them the physical tools they need. So we serve them in whatever way is best. At the moment, we're looking at rolling out insurance as part of our audience. So just to spark some ideas, hopefully. Another way we monetize our omnichannel brand is a schools project. It's now in its 3rd year. It's turned into at least 40% of our revenue. When we started out, it was tiny. It's now exploded post COVID-19. And it's in the form of a career fair. So we take the same messaging and reach a younger audience, roping them into agriculture-specific schools. The clients feel great because they deliver some corporate social investment, which is a legal requirement in South Africa that all companies have to spend a bit of money doing good, investing in social causes. But we bring a high energy program. Television stars rock up to towns most of you have never heard of. And we play matchmaking between brands and our learners, many of them who will work for these employers later on in their lives. We are currently in production with our second television series. The first one was on both free-to-air and the pay-for channel. And this is a great example of how we partner with brands to monetize. I want to show you a 30-second advert where sometimes the editor-in-chief and our journalist double as a podcast host and sometimes even as television hosts. Can we get some sound on this? Let's go back. Okay, never mind the sound. It's great storytelling. It's journalism with credibility. It doesn't feel like it's an advertiser-funded program. People share it, and it brings our little niche publication right into the living rooms of millions of people that would have taken us many, many years to do that. We're currently also in partnership for a second series that hits television next year, and we've also cleverly partnered with 19 different community radio stations. So here's our little office in Cape Town. We're 17 members on the team, but it allows us to pack a mean punch because our message goes out on national radio as well as national television. We are about 3 weeks away from our reader event of the year. Another way we monetize our audience. We honestly underestimated the power of possibility, the power of this event. It's a 2-day summit with 200 readers from across South Africa. We call it the Mzansi Young Farmers Indaba. It could be any event. It could be the cycling event. It could be the bird watching event, whatever your niche might be. It was fully sold out within a week. Our only regret is that we didn't hire a bigger conference venue because we've said no to at least 200, but outside, before we came in, a new idea was developed, so we'll find a way to accommodate them. This is interesting for us and quite a humbling moment for a startup because readers are literally flying in from neighboring countries. They're paying their own travel and accommodation because they buy into the spirit of our brand and our publication. We're bringing a lot of A-list speakers, including a government minister who will deliver the keynote address, and exhibitors now vying for space to meet this audience. Before I got on the plane to Buenos Aires, I had Toyota call me to say, can they bring in a vehicle to exhibit at this event? Next year we'll go bigger and possibly even include an expo. So in closing, if you're still doubting why you should go omni-channel, if it is even possible for all of you, 4 points. It really provides a holistic view of your reader with all sorts of clever data analytics tools, the likes of which you guys know all about. It is possible to get a more accurate, holistic view of the entire reader journey. There's nothing, well, we try to understand every bit of how our reader experiences the product, including the contextual insights that will help us to solve better problems for them. These insights lead to new products. For example, we know that there's a need for insurance product among our readers. It allows for more control over our brand and our brands. It ensures that your brand experience is uniform across all touch points. It's, whether it's the way you train your journalists to understand the language you're writing in, the language used in your product descriptions, in your advertisements, whether you're doing Facebook ads or Google ads, whatever, full control over your brand and also brand consistency of brand voice. It also increases customer retention, and with customer preferences stored across all the platforms we use, we are able to make informed suggestions and allow customers to do quick transactions with our brand, the likes of which we are experiencing with at the moment. And lastly, it allows us to deliver a unified offering across our reader journeys. So a unified offering, everything seems crazy because it's all over the show, but it's all to serve this one audience member to the best of our abilities. It increases our revenues by allowing us to monetize our audiences with relevant advertisements, services, products, events, whatever the opportunity might be out there, we will find it and bring it to our audience, which is obviously great for business, but even better for our audience. It builds loyalty by simply understanding and meeting our reader needs. So at 3 p.m. today, I want to invite you to join some of our fellow colleagues from the Daily Maverick. It's probably the most exciting media innovation in the continent of Africa. You'll hear from Gillian later this week. And Bilal, who's heading up the South African Media Innovation Program. We've got a workshop focused on product monetization where we'll go more in depth, and that's at 3 p.m. today. Thanks for your time. It's lovely being here. Thanks for having me.